She's going to bring New York down with her. And yes, we're talking about Attorney General Letitia James. So it wasn't enough that she got her target locked in on former President Donald Trump's business. It's not enough that she wants around $500 million for a case with no victim, because James wants even more than that. She's coming after businesses in New York. Well, she's starting with businesses in New York, but it sure looks like she wants to kind of go all across the country doing the exact same thing. Many critics say that Letitia James, is the kind of person who feels offended whenever people's opinions don't match with hers. In some sense, I guess we can call her self-centered. Others just call her a bad person. And a lot of people seem to agree. Now, before I get into what Letitia James is now up to, all I ask is that you guys take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video, and I want to thank you so much for sharing this video. We need to get more eyes on this situation here, including many firefighters in New York. Letitia James was caught off guard because instead of cheering for the person who wants to bring Trump to jail, she was booed mercilessly. No one was happy to see her. There was a chant of Trump, Trump, Trump that was led by some of the firefighters as Letitia James tried to talk them through. Now, again, this happened in New York, where Letitia James serves as the Attorney General there. And this means that these Americans, they don't feel as if she's doing a very good job, because James is leading the investigation against former President Donald Trump in a case where no one lost any money here.
Oh, come on, we're in a house of God. First, simmer down. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for getting it out of your system. I want to thank Commissioner Kavanaugh and Chief Hodgins for that recognition.
Top brass at New York's Bravest want to investigate any firefighters who they say broke protocol by saying Trump. The New York Post obtaining an email from the chief of the department saying that he recommends those who protested come forward, so the commissioner, Laura Kavanaugh, won't have to, quote, hunt them down. A spokesperson pushing back on this, telling Fox News Digital no one is being hunted down. They want whoever broke department regulations.
And so now these firefighters are basically just exercising their right to free speech, the First Amendment. It's a constitutional right that apparently Letitia James doesn't feel is applicable to the firefighters. Now, I think most of us think that the First Amendment, it should be held at the highest regard because it gives us the right to be who we are. The problem, though, is that doesn't fit in well with James. How so? Well, they've now started an investigation to confirm who took part in heckling her while she was making her speech. Do you believe that? So critics now say that this is clear power tripping and that she's just angry at anyone who doesn't follow her narrative. This pushed the Uniform Fire Officers Association, a major firefighter union in the city, to take action. So they said that deputy chiefs will start visiting each company that was in attendance on that day and offer members to admit their guilt. I can't make this stuff up, guys. It's unbelievable. If they heckle James, then they're being given an opportunity to come forward and turn themselves in. Now, many experts argue that heckling is part of the job when you become a public servant. Not everyone's going to be happy with what you do, but to have people come forward just to admit that they were heckling Letitia James, this is unprecedented, guys. So what will happen to firefighters who admit to doing this? Now, from the report, they'd be taken to their headquarters and educated about their behavior and why it was wrong. Maybe even have firefighters sit in timeout for a period of time. But it's not just New York firefighters who have beef with James. There's also big businesses that are now entangled with the Attorney General of New York State. Now, I said beef specifically because she's got her eyes set on JBS USA, the world's largest beef producer. So the case against them is focused on their alleged misrepresentation of their carbon emissions. Now, again, Letitia James, she's a force when it comes to climate change. Experts say that if you're not playing by her rules, then you're not allowed to play it at all. So she filed this lawsuit in state court where she says that the JBS group has profited from its fraudulent and illegal business activities across New York State. She also argues that beef is bad for the environment and that JBS fooled all of its customers by buying their products even though they couldn't meet the pledges to cut their emissions. That's basically what the whole case is all about. So James is all appalled that this business is doing good business in New York. Now, I know that sounds confusing, but let me clarify. So the JBS group is seeing growth within their customers' demand, meaning people like what they're doing. They like what they're selling. If you have a business and demand is high, you tend to try and meet that demand. That's basically how business works. James, on the other hand, she says that this is an unforgivable offense because by then, JBS may not meet its emission goals. Now, let me ask you this. Who's out here buying beef because a company has set emission goal targets? No. People aren't doing that. People are buying beef because they like the flavor, they like the price, or both. So anyway, she's mad that a business in New York is actually profitable. Some analysts say that the same treatment was done to former President Donald Trump. He was making good money in New York, paying his taxes, but that wasn't in line with what Letitia James wanted. And this is why critics are calling her out, because it looks as if she can't wait to get her hands on Trump's properties within New York State. It's also worth noting that she's charging JBS with violating the state's executive law, section 6312, the same one that she says Trump violated as well. Now remember, Governor Kathy Hochul was confident that businesses wouldn't be targeted after James won a $454 million judgment against former President Donald Trump. You remember that promise from Governor Kathy Hochul? Now I don't think it was even a month that has passed by, and we're already seeing the Attorney General of New York use the same tactic and the same law to get other big businesses down for the count. And this is why experts are foreseeing New York and businesses inside of it crumble, because there's a lot of narratives that James wants to be followed. She's doing it with the First Amendment. She's doing it with climate change. And believe it or not, she's doing the same for the Second Amendment as well. Now, there are things that I have to avoid saying here on YouTube, but I want you guys to understand exactly what I'm talking about here. So New York Attorney General Letitia James has sued a company in Florida along with 9 others for allegedly selling tens of thousands of tools to New Yorkers. I know you understand what tools means in this scenario, right? And just recently, a federal judge then banned a Florida company from selling or delivering these tools to New York. So she's not just after businesses in New York, she's after every business around the country. And if you're from a different state and you're trying to do business with New York, it might be time to reconsider. And that's what analysts are now focusing on, that she's not helping the state prosper. Instead, she's helping the state sink lower than it already is. And these are businesses that are succeeding. They're doing what they sought out to do. But then she wants to go ahead and bring all that down just because their point of view doesn't match her politics. Now you got to wonder how many businesses are going to leave New York at this point and how many people will lose their jobs. And here's another instance where James has proven to be a really bad person. On her personal X account, the attorney called out a cake shop in Colorado, not New York, but Colorado. So the views of the cake shop did not match what the order was, so they refused. Businesses have a right to refuse service, just like truckers have the ability to refuse to deliver products to New York. That's just something that we know throughout the world, right? But again, not in any world that Letitia James is in. So now she's calling on the Colorado Supreme Court to do something about it. So this led the author and columnist Mollie Hemingway to call out James by saying that she hates the First Amendment and that James is a bad person. Some critics say that James might not like it when people don't get their cake, but removing the right of a business is a little bit too much. So this has led a lot of Americans doubting if she's actually in her job for the greater good, because many people see her as honoring laws that she likes and trampling on pretty much everything else that doesn't match or line up with her way of thinking. So the question now is, could this be the same for Trump? Is it more of a bias, or is she doing this for the people of New York? Now, as far as I'm concerned, guys, I'm gonna continue to present you guys with the truth and keep you guys informed on everything that's going on. Before I go, I just want to thank you guys so much for hitting the like button for the video. Thank you for sharing this video and spreading awareness, and I'll see you guys on the next one.